Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar on robotic automation in mining using 5G. I'll be your moderator for this session. My name is Varnika Gupta, and together we'll try to explore and understand about the technologies that are really powering the mining industry. Now, mining, as we all know, is a very, very crucial sector. It's powering our economy, it's powering many other industries also. However, there are some concerns, some aspects that have been in focus, like sustainability, safety concerns, operational efficiencies. So today, during this conversation, we'll try to understand how robotic automation, coupled with the capabilities of 5G, can really, pave this industry forward and can really pave for a more safer, efficient, and sustainable future. And for that end, I have with me a very remarkable speakers who are at the forefront of this transformation that we are talking about. So please help me in welcoming Mr. Abhijit Chaudhary, CEO and board member of Niral Networks, Bibrajit Haldar, founder and CEO of SafeAI, and Suraj Prakash, the CEO of TexMin. I would also like to tell you before I begin with my questions that you will also get to ask questions. So there is a Q&A box that you see on your screen. So you can share your thoughts and any question that you have for our speakers, and we will take them up in between the conversation or afterwards. So you'll also get to interact with them. So with that, let's begin our conversation today. Abhijit, I'll start with you. You have had 2 decades of experience in telecommunication and data networking industry and are among one of the pivotal players in the connectivity landscape of India. So help our viewers understand how can 5G technology revolutionize the mining sector's connectivity and operations, and where is India at in today's global landscape? What is happening in India? What kind of progress is happening here?
Thank you, Varnika, and good morning, good evening to all of you who have joined the webinar and the LinkedIn live session. Yes, I think I have visited a couple of mines. I mean, mining is something which I've been on a telecom network, but mining is something new to me. But over the last 2-3 years, we have been exploring the mines. So I have visited a couple of mines myself. And what I have figured out is that most of the mines are generally on the remote areas. Right, it's a global trend, like not only in India but also outside India. So then they tend generally the operators network are not really available there, like, or it's the connectivity is not great. Let's say when you talk about operator, I mean the Geos and the Airtels of the world in India and maybe AT&Ts in the US, for example. So also, there is a need for private connectivity because they have a lot of data that they want to keep in-house, not really take it to the cloud or external world. So they need the data to be inside. So my visit to a couple of mines, and I've seen that it is pretty disoriented, I would say in some ways, because there are around 3 to 4 communication technologies within a mine. For example, for talking between people, like man-to-man communication within a mine, they use walkie-talkies, two-way tetra radios, which are in the narrowband. Then, let's say for vehicle tracking, like you have to track the dumpers and the shovels and excavators. These are like trucks and other machineries within a mining area. Now, for tracking that, they use a separate communication technology, let's say Wi-Fi or any other communication technology they use for tracking the vehicle. Now for surveillance, because surveillance plays a very important role, and there are maybe around 20 to 30, maybe more surveillance cameras within a mining site, which is 2 square kilometer to around 10 square kilometer or more. So there they use Ethernet because I mean they need to send high bandwidth, and for that they tend to use Ethernet, so the wired connectivity in some places. Now, for IoT sensors and some of the other places, they sometimes use LoRa is another communication technology they use, or sometimes they actually collect it offline. They put a USB in a lot of the like IoT technology where they collect the USB and take it to the control room and check what are the data. So it's not automated. And there are so many 4 or 5 communication technologies, right? So that's where I think managing such 4 or 5 technologies needs a lot of operational cost, understanding, and it's a chaos. I think it's pretty complex. So I think that is where 5G can play a role. It can connect the communication like voice, video. Then the vehicle tracking can run on a 5G based SIMs, vehicle tracking devices. Then surveillance can be connected on a 5G technology because it supports high bandwidth, low latency, real-time applications from sensors or machineries can be sent for predictive maintenance, etc. And also the surveillance data, which is high bandwidth, can be easily sent on this. So that's why I think 5G can be a single umbrella connectivity solution on top of which all the devices can run on a mining field, right? Which can be 10 square kilometer outdoor with mobility, and then it becomes easier to really disrupt, like we are talking today about robotic automation, right? That's, I think, the predominant or the fundamental technology, connectivity technology. 5G can actually enable robotic automation, drones, and all the other digitization in mind. So, and it's not only Indian, it's definitely very pertinent to India because it is Indian mines are like starting to digitize, whereas outside India, also, like when you talk about Australia, US, there too, I mean, digitization has already started, and they're looking at 5G as a umbrella technologies to actually bring all this automation inside.
Sure. So, like you say that you said it's the umbrella that can really hold everything together and pave the way forward. Coming to you, Bibrajit, SafeAI is a leading name in the autonomous technology for heavy vehicles. And, Abhijit was just talking about that, what is happening in India. I would like from you to understand the global landscape here. Tell us how you at SafeAI are envisioning this integration of autonomous and 5G to transform the mining operations. How is it panning out in the rest of the world?
Yeah, thank you, Varnika, and thank you for hosting this. This is not a easy topic to host, so thank you for that. So just to kind of give you
I'm glad you're acknowledging that.
Absolutely.
Doing my best here.
Just to give you a background, and I've been in the mining industry almost, 15, 20 years now. And my background is deploying autonomy in mining, mining and construction as well. But just to kind of take a step back, and when we talk about autonomous application in mining, it's really over thousands of vehicles running fully autonomous without any human operator for last 10, 15 years globally, right? I think that's kind of set the stage up. One thing for autonomy you need to have a strong connectivity, right? If the machines are running without any human operator, you need to have a strong connection to that machine to kind of see what's going on, give the instruction. So this connectivity is required. And a kind of global perspective, just to give you a context, like in Australia, Canada, Latin America, as I mentioned, thousands of vehicles running, they actually deploy a strong local LTE network. And that's how they actually deploy. Good and bad about it that when you have a local LTE network, it is very reliable. It is always going to work, but it's very expensive. Just to kind of set the stage, what I mean by expensive, I think one of the mine in Australia, they're running about 1,000 vehicles, hundreds of vehicles are fully autonomous. Just to set up the network, that cost about 15 million USD. And just to keep up every year, that's about 2 to 3 million USD just to keep up. And they have been doing that for 15 years. So I think that is the kind of backdrop, what autonomy brings in the connectivity. Now, if you throw 5G into that, what you are seeing happening is that 5G reduces the cost significantly. So industry is really waiting for that. They said, I know I can do autonomous. I need a very expensive network. Now, 5G is really the right technology coming in, saying that I can make the connectivity happening, not just for big mine, for everybody, and not just from Australia, Canada, Latin America, and the largest mine. It can be very viable in India. It can be very viable across the globe at a cost they can afford. So I think this is why it's a very right time for 5G to really revamp the mining connectivity world.
Sure. So that's great news for all of us who are very keenly trying to understand this topic, that it's the right time for 5G. Suraj, I'll bring you in now. You also have extensive background in mining engineering. You have experience of working with MNCs, with startups. You are very deeply involved with TexMin. You're deeply involved in the sector. Can you provide some specific instances where robotic automation has led to, really address the issues of safety and performance in mining? And if you can share also your thoughts on what our other speakers have spoken about it, how 5G can really be that key that can glue, that can really put everything together.
Right. First of all, again, thank you and congratulations for conducting such a webinar for such a tough and difficult topic. Right. That's because this is actually the need of the hour, to be very frank about it, and it is very necessary for us to actually start planning, right, how 5G paves its way to the particularly for the Indian mining industry. Okay, so that is one thing. I would like to mention here, this question that you have asked is actually coming, making me remember of my college days. I have a master's in safety and disaster management for mines itself. So I can actually relate. One important thing when we talk about safety is to actually understand that, in what context are we talking about, the safety part. So like when we're talking about, human exposure in a hazardous environment, so, for particularly like areas like mining and all. So that we need to plan that, okay, person has to go there and we need to reduce that exposure. Basically, it means you need to collect data of the man, right, of the environment, and also you need to find out what are the activities which can be automated and not automated. So there is a lot of different types of communications are involved. So like there will be communications from IoT networks. So many sensors will be present. For example, in mining areas, what happens, there's a lot of gases issues are there. Most of the time it is an issue of gas, it is an issue of dangerous, for example, slippage of slopes, right? Then there's a rock fall, then methane burst, then gas burst, coal burst. So many kind of these kind of problems could be there coming from the environmental factors. So you need to find out that, okay, these are the areas which has to be sorted, for that sensors are required. So one important aspect of a private 5G network is it can handle multiple different types of communication. In mines there are different types of communications for each for a specific job. So you have a communication network for voice to voice, for person to speak. There is a communication network for sensor technologies. There is some communication network for like even for so like it is not there as of now on the video surveillance for underground mines, but definitely there is some kind of surveillance happening in small pockets of mine where network connectivity is there for the open cast mines. So a lot of bandwidth related issues comes in, right? So that is where one area where I see that private 5G can make that difference. One communication network for all kind of communication. Second thing, talking about which kind of activities can be automated. So definitely activities which are repetitive in nature, which actually does not require, it's too much of thinking there. It just has to go that. Those things can be definitely automated. Then there is another thing which is decision making, which is required. Why humans are required in a hazardous environment? Even if I don't want to have to send my manpower there, is because I know that some decision has to be made at that particular point. Right. So again, for that decision making to be taken in the surface, we need to bring that data and information to the surface. So there can't be any latency in that particular thing, or there can't be any source of not reliability, right? So 5G network will provide you a reliable information, right? That is very important. For example, if you need to excavate sitting in the long sides, telepresence is required. For that, you need to have a video surveillance of that area continuously streaming. How will you put that? Right? There is some kind of, it's public 5G or private public networks are not available. So I see these are the things, when from the planning itself, safety will definitely be improved by 5G. Yeah.
Sure. Abhijit, how will you take these thoughts forward? Suraj spoke about these challenges that can really be addressed by 5G solutions. So how would a 5G solution for robotic automation can be implemented in mining, especially here in India, where, where there are still a lot of, there's a long way for us to go.
Yes, I mean, it's a very important question. I think the implementation and what is the process should be followed. I think that's important. So when you kind of talk about setting up a connectivity solution like 5G within a mining site, let's say, which can be 2 square kilometer to 10 square kilometer, based on how big is the mine. So you have to basically, because it's a wireless network, you have to start with the radio planning. That means you have to figure out how many radios are required in the entire, to cover the entire mine, right? Or at least the mine where the excavation is happening. A radio survey would be predominantly done to understand how many radios are needed, and then how the backhaul connectivity would be there. Unlike other sectors, the mining sector is a little different when you come to 5G, because even the backhaul, what happens is that in a normal mines, right, you will be deploying the 5G radios. You may see that there are big towers where there is radio antennas that you probably see in the urban areas, installed by the operators, Airtel and Jio. Similar radios has to be kind of deployed in a mine. But in a mine, the mines are moving. That means that today you are mining doing the excavation in one hill. Later you may move the hill. So your radio cannot be permanently fit there. So the tower that you put, radio tower, has to be actually in a movable, like it should have a wheel, so that once this excavation is, yes, so everything is mobile. The other thing is that because there is excavation, you cannot put anything wireline. So generally the 5G radios get connected to the applications through a wired connection, which, like, that's why you see a lot of fiber being laid in the city, right? But like they lay fiber, and then that's how you actually get the connectivity. The radios actually connect through fiber to a centralized data center where the other part of 5G, which is called the 5G core, is implemented. But in a mine, you cannot do that because there is excavation happening. So the fiber would get frequently cut. So this fiber thing, which is called the backhaul for a radio network, cannot be done using fiber or any Ethernet or wired technology. So even the backhaul has to be wireless. One, because if the fiber is getting cut, the other is that the towers are also moving. Today from one hill to another hill it will go. So that's a very important challenge in mines. So you have to use a wireless backhaul for that. So that means when you excavate an area, you have to kind of plan for that, and you plan the radios, 5G radios. Then these 5G radios would actually get connected with a wireless backhaul, which may not be 5G, maybe a separate technology, which is a point-to-point technology to carry this 5G bandwidth or 5G data to within the site where all the radio data is aggregated to something called a 5G core. Okay, and all the devices, let's say the drone or the auto devices that we talked about, vehicle tracking, surveillance, etc., they would be given a SIM. Like your mobile has a SIM, right? 4G SIM, for example. When you go to 5G, you will need a 5G SIM. Like in this case, in your case, the operator would give you the SIM to connect to their network. So in the case of the mining site, we will give the SIM because that's a private SIM. That's not the operator SIM. We'll create a private network, like a Wi-Fi network, but a glorified, much bigger network, which is a private network for the mining site or an enterprise. So to connect to that private network, you would need a SIM. So in all these devices, we will provide a 5G SIM. That's a Niral is creating the network, then we will provide the 5G SIM. And all the devices which are connected to the 5G SIM through the radio would get authenticated. Once the SIMs are authenticated, because security is very important and privacy too. So all the device which connects to the 5G network would be authenticated before you are actually allowed to go into the network. Now, that's kind of the connectivity part. There is also a part that, what Bibrajit and Suraj mentioned was the application, like high bandwidth application, like surveillance, AR, VR, even autonomous guided vehicles would need very high bandwidth, and also real time, that is low latency. So in the application, like let's say drone application or the robotic automation application, has to actually reside within the premise, like within the site. So that way, by that, what I mean is that you actually need to have an edge cloud. Like you talk about AWS and Azure cloud, right? Public cloud, you can host the application. But in the case of mines, those applications actually has to be hosted within the site because you need real time. You may not have a connection to the internet, but you want your applications to run. So you need to have a good redundant edge cloud infrastructure. In a small scale, of course, you don't need really a cloud data center, but you need to have servers in HA so that data is not lost, privacy is ensured, and the data from the 5G would actually go to the edge cloud infra. So I think that is the total, starting from the 5G SIM where the device connects through the radio to the core and then the application. And this should be real time, spontaneous within like milliseconds, like couple of milliseconds. So that's how we implement it.
Sure. Thank you, Abhijit, for explaining that so in detail and so precisely to our viewers. And I'm sure they'll really appreciate all the insights. Just reminding everyone, you can share your thoughts right in the chat box, any question that you might have. Coming to you, Bibrijit, now Abhijit explained about how we can about the implementation and the usage of 5G. I would like to understand from you that how is Safe AI how is it addressing the adaptability issues or challenges that may come forth while autonomous technology, and how they are ensuring that the unique demands of different mining environments are met when they are adapting to autonomous technologies?
Yeah, and I think just to kind of take a back up, what do we do? We actually go to this mine, various mine, we take the existing equipment, retrofit that to make it fully autonomous and give it back to those operators. So now they can drive those vehicles without any operator, right? I think one of the safety wise, just to kind of quick statistics, there's about 6 or 7 billion tons of material moved over the last 15 years, not a single fatal accident. I think that's an amazing statistics. And that's how we know autonomy will spread everywhere. It's just a matter of cost coming down. Like think about mobile phone back in 90s. We know it's going to come. It just cost has to go down. So autonomy is the same way. Autonomy, the power is so much that it just cost has to go down. Why I started from there, because I come from the application background, right? That's what SafeAI does. And one of the things, Niral, you were mentioning that, all the thing has to be done for the network setup. I think it's a matter of cost, right? And the more an application need the connectivity and the network, and they can spend a lot of money, if that kind of makes sense. So I think that the summary, if you look at that, it's almost like autonomy will enable connectivity to come to the mining industry, because autonomy will say there is so much of benefit you have to deploy. Now to deploy, you need a connectivity, but because the ROI is so high, they can pay for that connectivity. And this is where, when we look at it, how do we adapt? We are almost on the other side of that. We are like, no, because of our application, because the mine has to be connected, that 5G network will become available, and we'll work together with them to make it available everywhere. I think that's why I'm kind of focusing. It's a perfect timing, and you will see it will just explode across not just in India, across the globe. This 5G technology, really expand.
Sure. We are, the audience is already asking a lot of questions. So Suraj, I'll just quickly come to you for one very important aspect that we'd like to understand before we start taking in the questions that are pouring in from our viewers. One of the objectives, and I was reading up about TexMin, one objective that really struck out was how it's working to make Indian mines more safe, innovative, and sustainable. Now, when we speak about innovation and sustainability, it seldom goes hand in hand. There is always a struggle in striking that fine line. How, in your conversations with these different players in mining, how do you think companies can ensure a culture of innovation that embraces technologies but also keep that sustainability factor into mind, because it's become so much more important in today's context?
Right. Again, a very nice question that you have asked. Thank you for that. You see, obviously, TexMin is a TIH, it's a technology innovation hub, and we are supposed to promote innovation and in the areas of mining and exploration. And our, one of the key objectives is achieving 3S mining. So by 3S, we want to say it's a smart, safe, and sustainable. Because unless the innovation happens in the right direction, it won't be having a longer life, right? So we want the innovations to have a longer life also, right? And that's how we actually, when you talk about innovation, it's also see, let us be frank here that an R&D is always a cost center. Okay, so R&D even for a startup it will be a kind of cost, for companies also it will be a cost. So the thing is, as Vibhajit was mentioning, the ROI is very important. So ROI will happen only when you're focusing that this has to be a long-term thing. I will give you certain examples. So like in TexMin, we were actually thinking on a problem of, let's say, fuel is a very big cost, right? Operational cost. For if you run open cost mines, you will know that almost 70% of the operational cost comes just from fuel. Okay. Now for the managing of fuel, there are obviously the sensors are there, but until unless you optimize the whole transport network inside the mine, that optimize the efficiency will not increase. So we made we asked our startups and all to develop a system for traffic management in mines. You will be pleased to know that in one of the mines in which the full functioning is on, almost 30% reduction in the fuel cost has come just by managing properly, right? Because you see, and normally, if you go to the roadways also, probably in Bangalore, you will see a lot of jams and everything is there. You can't afford to have these kind of things, right, in mines. Now, when you talk about putting up a system like that, you obviously need to have a lot of data, as I was mentioning earlier, as well as that decision making. So for decision making, what we are doing is that we are asking people to have intelligence on the edge device itself, right? So right now we are having almost 3 patents in just AI on the edge platforms, and one of them is global patent also. So what effectively it means is that you can make decisions at where it is required, right? You don't need to send the data to long distance and then make it. So when Abhijit was talking about having all the data at a cloud which is at the edge, right? So it basically means that in the cloud we can also put our intelligence, and that decision will be made there itself, right? So again, 5G will help us in that particular way, and then I'm talking about how automation will be useful in that. I'll give you one more example. We talk about moving, like Avijit was saying, the minds always moves forward, right? So when the mind move forward, there are specific challenges which are coming every now and then, right? So we want to go before and then see the challenge and then come back and then report, right? For that, you want to have drones, right? So like drones will be there, they will go see that area, survey that area, come back and then report. Again, for flying long distances and then getting information on real time, that would be a really big boon, and that efficiency will increase, right? So there also, so we are developing a 5G drone, right? So what will happen is it will basically video telemetry will be implemented in that particular system, and then we will be getting the data on a real time basis with the help of 5G. So these are the specific, some kind of examples I would try to mention here. Again, I will tell you, like talking about Indian mining perspective, one of our startups are doing very good work in compliance monitoring. Like whenever we open a mine in India, we need to get some licenses and plans which have to be approved. And then every day, what you are doing in the mine, if it is, compliance are not being met, or probably, you had an power, basically an authority to mine up till here, and then you mined more, then you will be penalized, right? Similarly, if your trucks that you are moving, if they are, pilferage is happening across the way, and you are underloading the truck, definitely cost probably there. If you are overloading the truck, then again you need to pay some costs and all. So all the trucks or all the this thing, they will be fitted with pilferage tracking systems and systems which will optimize mines. Compliance will be made. All these things have, if they are done in real time basis, it will almost, to our estimate what we have done internally, will increase the efficiency of the mine to almost 35% in the first go itself. Like leave alone the capex reduction, right? When Abhijit was saying that communication cost, setting up a communication thing is very costly element. Definitely 5G will help us there, right? To reduce the communication management cost and setup cost. But for mine specific operations also, a lot of this thing will be there. So when companies innovate, particularly in the mining areas, they have to understand what are the problem areas, and if all these things
Come
lead
out
to
with
a
specific
sustainable growth.
solution that will really
Yes,
address the day-to-day challenges also. Yeah.
exactly.
Thank
Exactly.
you so much. And you guys have been sharing such important and such interesting insights. No wonder so viewers are so lively and are engaging with us so much. So let me take some questions now. So one of our viewer, Uttara Savant, he has a question. He has two questions actually. So his questions are: what are the benefits of private 5G network over a Wi-Fi network for mining? And he also wants to know if an existing network, if an existing company exists on a network, then what will be the migration path to private 5G? I think Abhijit, you should take it up.
Sure, I can start on that. Thank you. I mean, Uttara, this is a wonderful question, and it's very important that we understand the difference and the forward path. So, to your first question, what is the benefit that private 5G brings over Wi-Fi, which is also a private network? Is it's like, see, most of the mines, as I mentioned, is moving. and there are a lot of moving parts. It's operationally, like the vehicles are moving, the drones has to move. So there is mobility involved. And we have seen that traditionally Wi-Fi works better. I mean, if things are static, I mean, you're like you are in the office. I mean, you can use Wi-Fi 6 more than Wi-Fi to get higher bandwidth too. But when there is mobility, like you are driving your car and you're moving across, but you see your mobile network is generally working. Your call actually continues. You may actually hand over from one radio to another, but still it is seamless. You don't understand ki, acha, there is a switchover happening on the radio. Your call continues, your voice call continues. Same thing, the data call also continues very seamlessly when you are using you can say 3GPP, like 4G or 5G. So that's why, I mean, when it is outdoor, when it has mobility, then definitely 5G or 4G, I mean, any of the cellular network is the technology to be used. Apart from that, I mean, one is the mobility part. The other part is with 5G, we can guarantee, I mean, how it is architectured, you can guarantee very high bandwidth as well as real-time application, because Wi-Fi, this 5G can work on a licensed band. You have to get the spectrum. Whereas in the Wi-Fi, the spectrum can be reused in other places. So you may get a noise. So you may not get a reliable connectivity. When you use it for like operational to increase your productivity, you want to increase your sustainability, safety, right? Reliable connection is very, very important. You cannot compromise on that. And that's where you need a guaranteed connectivity. That is what 5G will ensure, apart from all the other benefits. So, I mean, I can go on and on forever, but just covering 2 or 3 important points on the benefits of 5G over Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi can cover 5G a radio can cover a pretty large distance. Let's say one 5G radio, when you put higher power, can cover almost like 500 meter to 1 kilometer to 2 kilometer based on which spectrum you are using. So you don't need too many radios. And when you want to connect a Wi-Fi range is limited to maximum 30 meters to 100 meters. Just see, when you are connecting a 10 kilometer area, how many Wi-Fi access points will be required and how much handover would happen. It's not scalable. It will not work out. And in fact, the cost would increase much more than 5G when you have to create so many Wi-Fi access points every point, right? So that's why it's not scalable. Now, coming to your second question, and I'll answer it quickly because I took too much time on the first one, is that the 5 existing network, how they get connected. See, let's say that's something which we have been discussing with the existing mines that we are in touch with. So they generally traditionally have a Wi-Fi network existing in some patches where they want connectivity, and they also have some LoRa kind of network, or let's say surveillance network. The idea is that when you create the overlay network becomes 5G, on top of which existing networks can coexist. You can, let's say you have a Wi-Fi network, then you can use a 5G router or a gateway, which can act as a hotspot, like how your hotspot, you have a Wi-Fi, and then Wi-Fi can connect to 5G or 4G, right? So similarly, you can have multiple such hotspots, 5G gateways connected in various patches where the Wi-Fi network is available to connect to the 5G network. So that's one way of doing, which is non-3GPP way of doing, I would say. There is another 3GPP way of doing where there is a network function in 5G called N3IWF, which connects a Wi-Fi network and uses the Wi-Fi radio to send 5G signal. That is another way of doing. I'll not go to too much details on that because it is a little technical, but like the similar approach you can also follow for LoRa. Let's say you have an existing LoRa network, you can use a 5G gateway and connect LoRa as the last mile, and the backhaul can be 5G. And your Ethernet also, like you already have a network, but now you don't want to extend it more with more fiber, then you can connect a 5G router and then send it to put a 5G SIM. We can give the private SIM, and then you can connect to the private network.
Sure, and I'm sure if anybody wants to really dive in and understand more, they can always connect with you on LinkedIn. You will be
Yes.
happy to answer any queries there. And a lot of viewers have also pinged on will Wi-Fi be able, will the 5G spectrum be able to handle such large volume of data that Wi-Fi can? So I'm sure all those questions are answered. So we'll move forward. Bibrijit, we'll like to understand from you. Can you share, because you are working in this field so extensively, can you share some real world examples of successful autonomous vehicle implementation in mining, some interesting anecdotes that can really help our viewers understand this technology better?
Yeah, maybe I'll give you two examples. And I mentioned Australia, right? So one of the largest mine, BHP, they are deployed over hundreds of vehicles autonomously, and they implemented a private LTE. So think about we are talking about private 5G. Private LTE was a 20 years ago technology, right? So it works, very expensive. And another mine that where we are deploying, actually, we are in a gold mine in Australia. They already have a network. We are actually testing out different type of network on the side of it, because we know the new type of network. You mentioned the 5G is one of them. We are testing it out. So we're kind of seeing in the real time where you have the existing network, but there is a great appetite from the mining industry to test out these different ways of networking. Because again, at the end of the day, the cost goes down and everybody get benefited, right? That's kind of the push. If you look at kind of zoom out, you will see one of the vision of the mining industry, what they call connected mine. And what enables connected mine is that 5G network or any sort of network, but the existing network is too expensive, so they cannot go there. So I think if you just Google, I think that's a great video anyway. Like anywhere, if you see autonomous mine running in Australia, Canada, you will get a great video. It's an amazing, and they are all connected through that. So I think that's some of the example. If any audience want to know more, we can again same at that, right? We have been delving into autonomy for a long time, and it is exciting. And one last point I will say, I keep going to Australia, Latin America, and all that. Autonomous is also coming in India. As much as we talk about outside, we are very much there. We have a team. So autonomous is also coming in India very soon.
I was about to ask that if you have any Indian examples, it will make it more exciting for all of us here.
We are gonna bring it. We have been working on it we have been working with literally top 4 or 5 top mining company in India. The regular one you can think of, and we are gonna bring autonomy in Indian market as well, because again, this is such a high potential and safety and productivity. It will be everywhere.
Great. Good to know that India is not far behind. We are scaling new heights in every sector. So why, lie behind here? Suraj, a lot of our viewers, they want to understand, you spoke so passionately about, safety and sustainability and keeping innovation sustainability, maintaining that fine line. They want to understand more about what are the benefits of remote monitoring and, powered by robotics and mining, and how can they make the environment, especially in Indian mining, for the human workers in Indian mines, a more safer environment for them, because we keep seeing all these news, all these articles about how the working situations are. So if you can share something more about that for our viewers to understand.
Right. So, I will just go on by the last conversation, that now Bibrijit has very rightly mentioned that autonomous mining, if you Google, you'll find out there's something called connected mine, and then you will find images of something in which you are sitting. So it's called armchair mining, by the way. So like you will sit in a place, and then there'll be basically a visualization platform, and then you can visualize what is exactly happening into the mine, right? This is the overall, this thing, and then you can just remotely you can control that. Okay, the equipment, the excavator will start excavating, and then loaders will be put forward, and then and so forth and so on. Okay, so like let me think. Okay, if I want to have a connected mine, first in picture, so what are the things that we need to do? So first of all, we need to ascertain that the environment in which it is present, right, that is safe, right? For example, if there is a haul road, and suppose obviously India has a problem of rains, right, to very this thing, right? So water management in mining areas is a big challenge. The dump slopes and other things, right? The dump roads, sorry, the haul roads. So the haul roads, what will happen is, if the water is there, it becomes kind of slippery, right? So before, if you don't know that, okay, the slippery is there, right, slipperyless is there, then your tires might just skid, right? So you need to know beforehand itself that, okay, this is the area where I'm going to go. This is how I will management in mining areas is a big challenge. The movement of the speed of it, right? For that, you need to know the information present there. This is just one specific example. Okay, there are multiple such examples. Then let's say that, okay, we are saying that, okay, about safety, or safety is definitely one concern of the human. And even if we are saying that it is fully autonomous, there's no manpower, right, in the mines, we have to understand why this concept is coming, right? Why is foreign countries actually moving towards fully autonomous things? So efficiency is definitely there, but the manpower shortage is also there in foreign countries, right? So for them, it's a big need, right? So that, because manpower is less, how do they do that? Then probably they move to autonomous thing, and they file it, oh my god, if I go to autonomous, my manpower problem is also solved, plus efficiency is also there, right? In India, the problem of manpower will definitely be remaining, right? So first we have to see that, okay, the machine should be able to collaboratively work with the human, right? Again, that interface has to be there. So we need to equip human with the machine information first, let them understand, and then move forward. So the progress can never happen from the step 0 to step 10. So there will be a shift in progress, right? So like slowly and slowly. So that's our way of thinking it. So like when we, in our innovation hub, when we think about, so we are setting up a lab also, like with Niral only, right here, a 5G lab. So all these problems, and the steps have been properly identified and all, right? So let's say we are talking about an AGV, right? Automated guided vehicle, for that matter, right? So for warehouse, we already have an AGV. Can we have a AGV for mining also, right? Basically it means that AGV has to move towards multiple different types of terrain, right? So though that robotics will be used right here. So like it will be like a all terrain vehicle kind of thing. Then only loads can be transferred. So that if given the equipment has to change. Right. Some of the projects you see right now we are having is in very, very remote areas, right? In that remote area signal, so definitely it is not there, but then you cannot even transport big machinery there, right? So you need to have very small machineries which can be transferred to that particular remote areas. So you see the equipment itself has to be changed, right? So it is very good, for companies like, even SafeAI to pitch in and right talk about autonomous things and all, so that even the equipment design have to be changed, when we are whole the breadth is exploring. Talk about Australia. So I went to Australia last month, right? And then we had a discussion on exploration part. There almost 97% of the area is explored, right? In India, 97% is unexplored, right? Talk about drilling, right? If we talk about drilling automated drill rigs, right? Right now we are moving step by step, right? But they are much, much far ahead, right? So like there is a system, we were talking with some of the top researchers in Australia about sensing. So they are saying that, okay, if there is a kind of seismic activity, very, very small, minute level kind of thing happening in the across continent, they are able to sense that, right? We need to sense this thing. You see, in mines, what happens is fly rock is a very big issue. You do a blasting, and then the earth will, move, and then the fly rocks will start coming in. All the equipments, even the lighting infrastructure, right, is very, like they have to be safe, right? In underground mining, there is always a problem of, certifications coming in. So we have actually made a blueprint, plan of how do we get a fully safe, compliant kind of, equipment, even for underground mining environment and this thing. So this is what I just wanted to give an overall idea. I think I'm able to answer your question.
Yes, yes, of course. Building on what Suraj said, Biblijit, quickly, because we are running out of time also, and we have to take more questions. If we can understand more about how he mentioned that specifically here in India, the progress, the adaptation of autonomous and the human aspect of it, it has to be looked in a conjoined manner. It cannot happen. It has to be an amalgamation of all the things. So can you also explain our viewers that when you are bringing all these technologies to India, like you were mentioning in your last question, that you are already in talks with some of the top players here, how are you personalizing the whole experience to suit more for the Indian mining landscape? And also when you are into this deep tech and you're doing cutting edge innovations, how are you ensuring that the sustainability part of it is not an afterthought, but you are going ahead with it while you are creating these mind-blowing innovations?
That's right. And I think I would completely second what Suraj said. This is not just in India, it is across the globe. You deploy technology in a very, very stepwise. This is not something is like 1.0, what Suraj said totally. As I said, it's globally also we're doing the same thing. Even at India, we'll do a very small step at a time. sustainability and safety are going to be in the forefront. And at the end of the day, and if you look at our company name, SafeAI, safety is kind of core of our thing, right? And this is an industry where you want to move slow. There is something, if you are building an app for your iPhone, move fast, right? Like even at a Facebook, like move fast and break. This is not that industry. So I'll completely second what Suraj said. We will go slowly. Even in India, when you talk about deploying it, when you're talking of literally the top 5 mining company, we are talking about let's do a smaller use case. Then they expand, right? Let's do 1 mine, then we'll do 10 mine. I think this is a learning, and every step we take, we'll kind of learn. And I think the advantage that we have being sitting obviously in a company in Silicon Valley is that we deploy this thing in everywhere else. We can take that knowledge and come to India and say, okay, then how do you actually implement in India? And directly to your answer question, do we know everything? No. It is really that taking a step with the mining company. And one thing I'll say at the end, like when we talk to this mining company, literally from the operator to all the way to their executives, right? The CEOs of the world of those mines, they're very, very passionate about it. What you just said, they also want the same thing. Right? They said, we want to bring this technology in India. They're fully supportive. So yes, we'll do very slowly, we'll do very collaboratively, and we'll do it a very stepwise, and safety and sustainability is a forefront of that.
Great. Good to know that, all these things will be taken care of when this technology comes to India. And here's hoping that it comes to India soon. Abhijit, we are, like I said, we are running out of time too quickly. I want to gather some last thoughts from all three of you. Talk to our viewers about what are you expecting from the future, while we want the sustainability and safety to go hand in hand. Is there any other thing you feel is crucial that every player working in this particular sector has to keep in mind? If you've had some interesting learnings that you are applying at your end to be more efficient in whatever you're doing for the industry, if all three of you can share your quick thoughts. We'll start with you, Abhijit.
Yeah. Thanks, Varnika. So I think I wanted to cover one point to like I think Bibrajit has mentioned that 5G, it will become much more efficient, even cost-wise. So I wanted to cover that point a little bit, because that's, I think, very important. Ultimately, everything is, of course, driven by ROI in the long term. What is that? But also the initial capex cost, right? Like to actually deploy. And that point I wanted to cover is that when you see like the existing old 4G technologies, right? These are very vendor centric. You have some very big incumbent OEMs who have been controlling the LTE market, and because at that time the network disruption or disaggregation did not happen. Now in 5G the things have become much more open. Like you don't have to take the entire solution from the big OEM. There are solutions from the startups which we can take. For example, we are also a startup. Similarly, we have partner companies who are also startups. We alone cannot provide the solution, but as a consortium, together, we can provide a solution which may be much more flexible than even the big OEM. So that's what it, and because it's the solution becomes open, that means you can buy a radio from one of our partners. And then you can, for example, we focus on the 5G core, like that's, 3G. So you can take our core, then you can integrate with a radio which is from another company. Then the use case can be from another company. So, and then the backhaul solution that I was talking about, which has to be fiber or wireless, can be from a third company, again open. So now you have much more competition. Even so, that's the benefit, right? When you open up things, then you can have various business models, various pricing models. We can think about subscription-based network infrastructure, 5G as a service, right? So those things are the disruptive things which have come up in 5G. And now even the startups can think about providing an end-to-end infrastructure. That is what I wanted to bring to everybody's mind. Especially who think, okay, it's 5G is a big infrastructure, only the big companies can do, no more. Even the small startups can together do that. So let's think from that angle. We would be ready to work with companies as a consortium to enable to have a solution which is disruptive and take care of your pain points. Yeah, so that is what I would like to.
Important to identify your right ecosystem partners for you to create that best umbrella of services for you, right?
Yes. So even so, you can reach out to the smaller companies. So that's how it kind of disrupt, right? Why Wi-Fi is disruptive, right?
Mm.
So even small companies have built Wi-Fi, and now if 5G can be done in smaller levels, the cost is reduced. It may take time to come to the cost of a Wi-Fi, but cost would reduce. So that would happen when there is healthy competition. There are many more competitors. There are like collaborations happening to provide an end-to-end solution. I think with 5G, the how they have defined the architecture, everything, it is very like innovative and it is very open. That's where the prices are now going to go down. I mean, with 5G.
Sure. Suraj, any closing thoughts from you? Any interesting learnings that you are implementing in all the partnerships you are forming and all the work you are doing at your side when it comes to tech and innovation?
Right. So, I totally, I can't be, any iota of doubt is not there. What Abhijit has said, that this way of working is actually going to transform the Indian mining scenario. Right. I can talk about Indian because I'm sitting in India right now. So I can tell you, this is the way of working. You see, in last like 1 year, 1.5 years or 2 years to be maximum, right? So we have developed almost 45 products, like more than 20 of them have been commercialized, right? So this is the scale in which innovation we at our hub want to take it forward. And all these innovation are coming from whom? They're coming from startups, right? And then companies, we just partner them, and then we tell them that, boss, you are our partners, and we want to collaboratively work with you and all. But most of the innovation products, I would say, is coming with startups because they are very, very agile. Right. And what actually excites me from this 5G system is private 5G thing is that it is like one communication for all. Like there are multiple differences. You'll have devices which are like IoT devices sending packets of data, just bytes of data, right? And there would be like we are doing lidar scanning in which drones are there. We can have multiple GBs of data, right? All of that can be integrated in just one communication network if we have. So that will become a backbone infrastructure, right, for all sorts of communication, right? So nobody can ask us, okay, if this is the communicate product that you are offering, how do we actually implement it in mines? Because you see, if we are having a 5G thing there, so you can anyways go to implement it. And that's the reason why we are setting up a lab also here. Like in that lab, will be again catering to this need of innovation only. So like the POCs can be developed, the prototypes can be developed, right? And by the time everything settles, I think the government of India policies related to the spectrum licensing and all, right? Those things should also be formalized, and mines will actually be deploying the 5G infrastructure, right? So this is our way of working. So we are just creating the backbone of innovation, finding out what the problems are there. Probably, companies like Niral, they would be providing us, good 5G network, and this thing will be testing all our devices and then deploying it in the mines. This is, no, my take in that. Thanks for asking this
It
question.
does, it does. Like you said, the future is certainly looking very promising. Vibrajit, any closing thoughts on what is that one innovation that is, keeping you on your toes, that you're most excited about, and how do you see the landscape panning out?
First of all, maybe two quick points. One is that Friday morning, so many people interested in this topic. That is very, very, I'm probably not the only crazy one thinking about
I give
morning.
the credit to four of us. I think four of us are doing a great job. That's why we are seeing such great attendance, and questions are pouring in. So the viewers are very active and they're very engaging. So it's good. I think kudos to all four of you, four of us.
And one thing I would say, this is just kind of broadly, right? And I make these points everywhere, like why Google makes so much of money without building anything, because they connect data. At the end of the day, Facebook make money because they connect data. Like they don't build anything, right? And they make so much money. Same way, the mining industry, they are making money off of, whatever they mine. But when you connect this, it's coming. They are about 20 years behind the industry when you think about Google and Facebook. So I think that is what you're going to see, this 5G and the network will enable. I think that's what I'm saying. This is coming in a very much more larger way than people think. So think about that way. So that kind of my closing kind of thing. I can go on more this thing, but this is really, people who are interested, you'll see this 5G will really enable this connected mine, which will have a lot more benefits than just mining more efficiently. Again, that was probably my kind of closing comments.
Sure. Thank you for all the insights that all of you have shared with us. We still have a lot of questions pouring in, but we are running out of time. So our viewers, if you we will be sending out an email to you with a feedback form. You can, ask your questions there, and we will relay them back to our speakers, and they will answer all your queries. Alternatively, you can also start. You can also start following the Niral Network LinkedIn page. You can get all the information there. You can connect with our speakers there, our team there. We will be putting up a lot of content, a lot of information about the future webinars that we are hosting, so that you don't miss out. I'll advise, please do follow the page, and you can speak to all our speakers on their personal LinkedIn pages also. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer all these queries that we are unable to take due to the paucity of time. Thank you so much for joining this session this morning, and looking forward to hosting more sessions and learning more about mining and a lot more things that are happening in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Varnika.
Yeah,
Thanks, Varnika. Thanks
everyone.
to the entire Niral Network team. So
Yeah,
that's
thank
To everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good day.